And sometimes it's not so much about what we are doing in the future as much as it's what we're doing in the present, what we're doing in the here and now. Your happiness is not determined by the people around you, but by the person inside of you. Make the choice today to thrive in your singleness and not just survive. Hey y'all, it's your girl KristinJoy, and we are back for episode 2 of Party of One podcast, Singles Edition. So as you know, I always have to check in. How are we doing? Are we drinking our water? Are we working out? Are we eating right? Taking care of our mind and our budget? How are we doing? What's going on? Let me know. I'm doing kind of good. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm here sometimes. I'm just here. But I have the trainer, but I want to move in a different direction. I really want to get into I really want to try Pilates is what I really want to do. So we'll see if that actually happens. I have looked for Groupons and stuff like that because I'm why I'm going to spend my hard-earned money if I don't even like it. So I did find some Groupons, but they're not that close to my house. And the way these gas prices are looking, I'm not going to save no extra money. So I'll have to figure that out. But I need to do better at drinking my water. I do have it here with me, so hopefully I'll drink it throughout. Let's see. Okay, I see where it's at. So hopefully I'll drink it throughout this episode. Maybe not, but we trying. So that's all that matters. But last week was our season premiere. It was amazing, if I do say so myself. I feel like the engagement that I got from it, the just conversations that were started from the content was exactly what I wanted to happen. I really want this to be exactly what it's turning into be, which is just a platform for us to be able to have those conversations, talk about being a single, talk about those good times, the bad times, how to push through, and how to keep them going. If you are new to this podcast, welcome. My name is KristinJoy, and this podcast is about just building a better you, becoming a better person so that we can be the best individual pouring into other people. And so that's what we're doing here right now. We're on our singles edition, so we're speaking specifically to singles, but if you're in a relationship, if you're married, you can still get from this as well. One thing I've personally been working on is just trying to be in the moment, trying to live in the moment and taking it one moment at a time versus maybe weeks or years, months, however you may do it at a time. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get into what's on the menu. What's on the menu is the time in our episode where we get to the nitty-gritty. We will be focusing on what specific topic it is we are discussing for the day. So today's topic is living in the moment, and we're talking about the speed of life. Oftentimes, many of times, I find myself not taking the necessary time to pause and enjoy the moment. And that's something that I have to constantly remind myself, Kristen, live in the moment. Life can happen and things can change, but just do your best to live in the here and now. And so oftentimes in life, we just are going. That's just the nature of the world that we live in. It's just to go, grind. Figure it out. If you're tired, you can sleep when you're dead.
Did you die?
I got shot.
But did you die?
And that's really the motto for a lot of us. And I'm not gonna lie, sometimes I do fall into, most times, let me be fully transparent. Most times I do fall into that. Sometimes it's just really hard for me because I'm a planner. So I like to plan out the day, plan out the month, the year, and figure out what it is that I want to do. And no, that's not always a bad thing. It can be a good thing to be structured and to really have a plan and have a goal that you're going to reach. But sometimes it can be too much. And sometimes you can feel like you're going through life and you feel like life is going on around you and you're just sitting outside watching it happen. And that is a telltale sign, and that should be a trigger for you to realize, okay, I'm not living in the moment, because Child, I don't even know what's going on. I'm just looking around and it's just stuff moving. This is something that I believe that we need to master as singles to help us really navigate through this season of living in the moment, because it's going to help us with all the other triggers and all the other things and aspirations that we want to reach as a single. It's going to be important for us to be able to live in the moment. And it may sound cliche, we may have heard it before, but I really want to focus in on what it really means to live in the moment. What it actually means is being present. You are aware and mindful of what's happening in the very moment. And sometimes we think like, oh, okay, yeah, I know what's going on. I'm here, aren't I? Like, I see it. But are we really taking the time to really look at and enjoy those small moments that helps us reach bigger moments? And the best way for us to really navigate through that and to know if we are living in the moment is through intentionality. Being intentional about where we allow our mind to wander, being intentional about the things that we decide to pursue in our day. Like, we're taking it one day, one moment at a time. So one thing that I personally like to do is I'll make a to-do list. And so don't get me wrong, planning, if it's done appropriately, can be great. And so one thing that I do is I like to make a vision board for my particular year. So I do it based off of my birthday. So since I just had a birthday, I literally just made a vision board. And so the goal is, keyword is goal. The goal is that every month, every day, every week will point towards that vision board so that we can start accomplishing things on it. So when you look at my daily to-do list, you will see things that are going to point to me reaching those goals that are on the vision board. And so that's the intentionality that I'm talking about. Being intentional that you set the goals that you want to reach, and now you set smaller goals to reach those big goals through being intentional and through taking that time to sit in the moment and see, okay, this worked, this didn't work, this passed, I failed at this, and how did I fail? Why did I fail? Versus just going through life. For me, if I don't have a to-do list, something not right. It's not right. It's chaos. It's a hot mess if I don't go off the to-do list, because going off the to-do list helps me to stay focused on what it is that I need to do. When I don't have it, my mind is very free. So we just be flowing with the wind sometimes. And that's something I know about myself. And that's important. Know what works for you, what doesn't. Sometimes to-do lists don't work for people. And if you're that person that it doesn't work for, then you need to find the way that you work best, the way that you accomplish tasks the best, the way that you feel most fulfilled, and the way that doesn't stress you out to be able to reach the goals that you want to reach. And this can go, living in the moment can go for many different things. It doesn't just have to go for goal settings. It can go for living in the moment at an event. And that looks different for everyone. I am the type of person who, when I live in the moment, I want to take pictures. I want to take videos, because when I step back and reminisce on it, I like to see like, oh my gosh, that was so much fun. Take me back, right? And for other people, having their phone, having a camera is a huge distraction for them. They feel like they can't focus. They feel like they're not living in the moment when they're on their phone. And that's why I say it's so important. You have to know what works for you, because like for me, like I said, I can have the camera. My sister, she's living in the moment. She's having a great time. And then at the end, she's like, okay, can you send me all your videos or your photos? I'm like, you're welcome. But do what works best for you is what I'm saying. In living in the moment, it helps us to take the pressure that life throws at us, or that we may have even placed on ourselves. It helps us to take that pressure off. It helps us to ground ourselves and just really be focused on what's actually happening. And studies have shown that living in the moment has actually decreased your stress levels and also your anxiety. And stress is literally the number one killer, but we don't talk about it because everyone just stresses themselves out. But living in the moment will help you to live longer. Like we talked about last year, we're trying to live longer, happier, healthier, sexier, more affluent lives, okay? So we're living in the moment. So here are some tips that I found to help you be more present. So one of them is to write in your journal. So for anyone that's a writer, and even if you're not, I really encourage you to try, even if it's a paragraph, a sentence, just some form of reflection. I personally like to do videos or just voice memos because it helps. So like reflecting on how your day was, your week was, your month was, whatever time frame is best for you and that you can actually accomplish, I would recommend you doing. So that's number one, writing in a journal. The other one is visualizing your daily goals or writing your goals down. And studies have shown that if you write your goals down, you're 42% more likely to reach your goals. And so that's something that I really encourage. And when I did competitive cheerleading, and we read this book called Mind Gym, and it was talking about how your mind is the most important gym. It's more important than you as an athlete going into wherever your gym may be. And they were talking about writing down your goals and visualizing your goals. So visualizing whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish. So for that particular thing, we were visualizing our routine. And so we would literally sit on the floor with our eyes closed and walk through the routine with our eyes closed. And what it does is it helps your body, your mind to remember what it is that you're doing so that now it's second nature for your body to do it. So that's something that I find myself doing now. I'm not gonna say how many years later because I feel old already. I literally already feel old. But that's something that I already find myself doing is I'll write down the goal. I'll create the vision board. So I like pictures. So I create the vision board so that I can visually see it. And then I'll visualize myself checking off whatever that is. So whatever the goal may be. So for example, this podcast, visualizing myself going through the podcast, recording it, something I'm going to say, something I'm going to do, visualizing what that is so that now when it's time to do it, it becomes more of second nature than a fish out of water. The next thing was to take a mindful walk. So getting outside helps you to just refocus, ground yourself, get some fresh air, the oxygen, and increases all of the good hormones to get going because you're outside, you're in nature, you're doing great stuff, you're doing physical activity, all that fun stuff. So maybe if you're at work and you have a break, just go outside and take a walk. If you live in Arizona with me, it's hot. It is so hot. So I used to take walks. I don't anymore. But sometimes I will go walk in our parking garage because it's a lot cooler. So just find things that work for you. Or even if you walk indoors, just taking time to just turn your mind off, basically. And then another thing was a mindful review or just to chill out. So mindful review is similar to what I described earlier. You would go through your week, month, year, whatever it looks like. For me, I do like a monthly reflection. And so in that month, I'll go back and say like, okay, this is the stuff that I accomplished. This is the stuff I didn't. This is something that worked. This is something I should never do again. And that's just like day-to-day life for me. But every quarter I do like a deep dive into, okay, this is what it looked like. I go through my planner. I see things that I checked off, things that I didn't. And it helps me to really be able to reflect and be like, okay, maybe you really don't like doing this task, but yet you keep doing it. And so going through so that you can ultimately live life and be as happy as you can because you're fulfilling what it is you want to do. And then the last thing is just to chill. If you're a workaholic, if you get caught up in work, but you don't want to claim that you're a workaholic, if you always are signing up for new things, like you need to, at some point in time, take a break. And even sometimes if you feel like you aren't necessarily physically always going, but your mind is always going, you need to take a break. And whatever that looks like for you. Some people like to play video games. Some people like to go out to the gym. Some people like to go to movies, watch movies, listen to music. There's hundreds of things that you can do. But whatever it is that you personally like to do, that's what I recommend you doing, to just take that time and chill out. If you find yourself always, your mind is still racing, your mind is always going, or you're always physically going, or maybe even you tried some of these tips and they just haven't worked, the things that I would recommend are a little bit more conscious. So things like grounding exercise. So something like that could be like a grounding exercise is in the moment. You'll pause and you'll say, what's one thing I can taste? What's two things that I can smell? Three things I can hear? And four things I can see. And it just helps you to stop what you're doing and focus on what it is around you. So whenever you find yourself, your mind is racing, you can do something like that. Another thing is like breathing exercises. If you have an Apple Watch, they literally always tell you to like stop and be mindful or stop and breathe, but just actually doing it. It's literally like 60 seconds. But just taking the time to actually take deep breaths, because getting the oxygen to the brain helps you just to function better. And so that's something that I would really encourage, are those grounding exercises or maybe even mindful breathing to help just bring you back down and help you to focus. So all in all, what we're focusing on is just really learning to live in the moment, enjoying each moment at a time, because every small moment will lead us to the big moments that we want to achieve. Table Talk is a segment in our episode where we will discuss a hot topic about singles. So that could range from frustrations to myths, misconceptions, and much more. So with that being said, let's get into it. So this week's topic is stereotypes that society places on singles. And I have two stereotypes that I want to just talk about, and you can tell me in the comments how you feel about them, if you agree with them and it's like really facts for you, or if you agree that it's a myth. The first one is they are too picky. We have, as singles, we've all heard this, I'm sure. If you haven't, wow, congratulations. But many times we hear that we're too picky because people who aren't single just can't fathom why you're still single. I've literally had someone ask me, why are you single? I don't know. If I could tell you why, I would still be here, now would I? No, but literally, a lot of times people will call individuals picky. Maybe it's because they don't have the same standards that they have, or maybe their list is super long. Now, some of us can absolutely fall into this category. If you got a very, I don't have another nice word, if you have a very superficial list of people that you want, for example, so I'm helping y'all, but the average height of a man is 5'10", and so everybody wants somebody that's 6 foot and up, and they're 5'3". Why do you need that? Everyone is taller than you. You can wear your heels with everyone. I digress. It's not necessarily about us being picky as much as it's about us having a certain standard of things that we will and will not accept. And one thing that I think is important as a single, as the longer that you're in singleness, I believe that the harder it is, I don't want to say to get out of it, but the higher our standards become, because a lot of times we put on the mindset, just as humans in general, this has nothing to do with only singles, but just as humans in general, when you're in a situation for an extended period of time, you figure out ways to overcome, or you figure out ways to do better, make yourself better. So now you have higher expectations for everyone else that comes into that situation. And a lot of times that can happen when it comes to singleness. And if you're in it for a long time, or if you've done a significant amount of work on yourself, you could start creating additional standards that you may need to check. So I just encourage you to double check your standards to make sure that they are standards that are non-negotiables and not just ones, because it's okay to have two lists. Don't get me wrong, it's absolutely okay to have two lists, and I am a firm believer that you should have standards. We're not just going to be out here just dating any and everyone, okay? But you do need to make sure that it is ultimately what you need and not what you want. So that's what I would say about that stereotype. Number 2 is their priorities are wrong. So I read this, I was like, okay, that's interesting. As a single, I'm not really sure where else you want our priorities to be other than with us. So Okay. Now, don't get me wrong. There are some times where I just feel like this is people in general, not only singles, but people in general will do things that isn't the smartest thing to do, right? Like we'll spend money that we really don't have, or we will quit a job when we don't have another one, or there's just a lot of things that you as a human would do just because you simply wanted to do it, or you were making a bad decision because your priorities were not in order. So I don't think it's really fair to say that that's the stereotype for just singles, but okay. But I personally feel like, similar to what we talked about last week, is at the end of the day, we have to be a healthy version of selfish, and we have to be able to focus on us and make sure that the things that make us a better person to even be able to be good to anybody else are being fulfilled. And so if that's what your priorities look like, that's what your priorities look like. Now, if you don't want to be single forever, then a priority should be some form of dating, whatever that may look like, whatever floats your boat. Okay, so if that is something that we are looking for, then that should be a priority, such as going out, not always being at home, because if he not the DoorDash delivery or she not the DoorDash delivery, you ain't never gonna meet her. You ain't never gonna meet them. So making sure that you're putting yourself out there if that is something that you would like. If that's not a priority for you right now, then it's not a priority for you right now. It doesn't have to be. But I would just say that our priorities as singles should be ourselves and our purpose and what it is that we're trying to fulfill as us as individuals and in this world. Because what else are they gonna be? What else will they be? So make sure you add to the conversation and you comment below or DM me your thoughts, your opinions on these stereotypes. If you agree, you don't agree, let me know. And also let me know, have you ever heard these stereotypes to you specifically? Have you ever heard that you are too picky or your priorities are not right when it comes to you as a single individual? I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. Maya Angelou. Sweet treat is the icing on the cake. This is the time in our episode where I get the privilege to share with you a small piece of advice or maybe a word that it is that I received from God that I really felt would be great to share with you. So let's go ahead and get into it. This week's sweet treat is to steward what you have. A lot of times we find ourselves being ambitious and find ourselves wanting more in life and setting additional goals and reaching them and setting new ones. And sometimes it's not so much about what we are doing in the future as much as it's what we're doing in the present, what we're doing in the here and now. We can often believe that we need more or desire more to get us to where it is that we ultimately need to be. But if we really take that time to live in the moment and steward what it is that we currently have, how much more could we create from that? How much more could we do? How much more of our purpose could we actually reach? Because if you think about it, what you have right now is something that you desired for, something that you prayed for in your past that will come to pass in your future, and now it's here and you're wanting more. And you're desiring more and you're praying for more, which, don't get me wrong, it's not a bad thing, but have you taken the time to exhaust all options in this current season? Have you taken the time to use each and every tool that you currently have to reach the goals that you want to reach? Have you exhausted everything? And so I just really encourage you this week to just focus on stewarding what it is that you have in this current season, so that when it's time for you to move to your next one, you've exhausted all options in your past season so that your future season can be that more abundant. Well, thank you so much for hanging out with me. Now is my favorite part, where you have the opportunity to add value to this discussion. In the comments, let me know what stood out to you or what you would like to expand on. I personally look forward to joining in on that conversation. as always, you can follow me on IG at iamKristinJoy_ to learn a little bit more about your girl. So until next time, remind yourself, I am bold, I am exclusive, and baby, I am enough. Bye, y'all.